Introduction. Behind every breakthrough is a simple idea, and Busniness Analytic for Managers 2nd edition reveals the ones that matter. We will focus on what it says about business and data. Stay with me, the best part is near the end. Overall summary. Finally, the information systems must contain specific business processes that make use of the information or the new knowledge. In Chapter 5, we explain the functionality of a data warehouse and the processes in connection with the availability of data for business use. This information strategy is decided at this level based on the organization's or the business area's overall business strategy, vision, mission, and objectives. A strategy is a description of the overall way in which a business currently is, and is to be, run. Chapter 1: Business and Information. The company also has many support functions. More specifically, what the company needs is for the right people to have the right data and information at the right time. And this is exactly the first half of this book's Business Analytics, BA, definition. Definition 1. Delivering the right decision support to the right people at the right time. In this definition, we have chosen the term decision support, because BA gives you, the business user, data, information, or knowledge, that you can choose to act upon or not. Maybe the company's analysts and their scenario models can present different alternatives, but ultimately it's the responsibility of the decision makers to choose which business processes they want to alter or initiate based on decision support. BA is about improving the business's basis for decision-making and its operational processes, and achieving the competitiveness possible when a business is in possession of relevant facts and knows how to use them. Successful BA initiatives are always closely interlinked with the organization's strategy, mission, vision, and goals, and are put in place to strengthen the ability of business processes to move in the right direction toward business objectives. A front end is the visual presentation of information and data to a user. Human competencies form part of the information systems, too. Someone must be able to retrieve data and deliver it as information in, for instance, a front-end system, and analysts must know how to generate knowledge targeted toward specific decision processes. A business process could be the way inventory is optimized or products are priced. After all, if the organization is not going to make use of the created information, there's no reason to invest in a data warehouse, a central storage facility that combines and optimizes the organization's data for business use. The considerable investment required to establish a data warehouse must render a positive return for the organization through improved organization-wide decision-making and enabling of digital processes. An information system is therefore both a facility, for instance a data warehouse, which can store information, and a set of competencies that can retrieve and place this information in the right procedural context. It is essential to look at the organization as many processes. Therefore, when working with BA, it is essential to be able to identify which business processes to support via the information system, and to identify how added value is achieved. Finally, it's important to see the company as an accumulation of competencies and trained staff, some of whom undertake the technical solution, and others who bridge the technical and the business-driven side of the organization focusing on business processes. However, as shown in Exhibit I.1, the value from a business perspective is different. We can compete on lead information, where lag information to a larger extent is maintaining and optimizing already existing processes. The ability to make an information strategy, which is a plan of what the BA department should focus on according to company strategy. An understanding of BA as a holistic information discipline with links to a business's strategy, source data from the operational systems, and the entire value chain in between not IT. BA is a combination of IT, human competencies, and organizational processes. The model focuses on BA as an interaction of IT, strategy, business processes, a broad spectrum of human competencies, organizational circumstances, and cooperation across the organization. Chapter 2: Data and Business. In addition, there's a data warehouse that must be able to present and store relevant information about customers over time, and customer information that continuously must be adapted based on a mix of customer behavior and company strategy. The chapter covers the spectrum from business strategies to sourcing of data from the operational systems, data sources, and a case study. Addresses the relationship between business strategies and the BA function. Focuses on the creation and use of information at a functional level. In Chapter 4, we look at business analytics through processes and present options and analytical methods for the transformation of data into information and knowledge. In Chapter 6, we discuss the different operational systems and data sources in the organization's environment. BA allows business to go beyond traditional BI reporting. If your job is to make an information strategy, for example as a CIO, the model comprises all the stakeholders and processes on which you should focus. Information requirements move from the business-driven environment down to the technically oriented environment. In the top layer of the model, in the business-driven environment, the management specifies a strategy that includes which overall information elements must be in place to support this strategy. In the second layer, the operational decision-maker's need for information and knowledge is determined in a way that supports the company's chosen strategy. Successful BA processes should have a fixed structure that always begins with the specification of the information strategy, which is derived from the objectives of the business strategy. All underlying contributions and activities must submit to the chosen information strategy, as specified in the business-driven environment at the top of the model. The information strategy is often specified by the top management of the organization, by functional managers, or by business process owners. Once the strategy, along with the overall strategic KPIs, is in place, a framework, focus, and objectives are established for the operational business processes and initiatives. The information and analysis shown in the underlying layers of the model must be directed at changing and managing business processes toward the strategic objectives made visible by the KPIs. Types of reporting and analytical processes in the analysis and reporting development environment. In the middle of the model, analysts specify which information and data are necessary to achieve the desired behavior of operational managers and digital processes in the business environment. If the required data is already in the warehouse, the process will be to make this data accessible to the front-end applications of the business. If data is not stored, the data warehouse will need to retrieve data from one or more operational data sources in the organization's environment. Data sources, IT operations and development. IT operations and development must meet the requirements from the data warehouse about the delivery of data from the primary operational data sources or the development of new data sources. The different primary data sources in a company's environment and the data created are covered in Chapter 6. In data warehousing, the database specialist and the ETL developer won't know which data sources to retrieve, merge, enrich, and deliver to data marts, data prepared in the data warehouse for business use. IT operations and development won't be able to contribute by creating new data sources, since they don't know which new information and knowledge are required by the business. Chapter 3: Business and Data. The station's specified business goal is a market share of 25% and an ROE of 15%. The business strategy and objectives are thus presented by means of the following metrics, measures, or KPIs. A new BA initiative is planned and implemented in the business. BA activities must always be based on the business-driven environment, with the management specifying or creating one single information strategy that must be subject to the company's overall business strategy, vision, mission, and objectives. The radio station must hold on to its listeners longer. The business case speaks in favor of carrying out the project. Business cases are a good way of evaluating and prioritizing BA projects. We'll cover more about business cases in Chapter 8. The management of the radio station now has the first elements of its information strategy in place, and it's directly related to the overall strategic objectives of the business. The analyst needs the data warehouse to provide him with data on the listener's ages, genders, and tastes and preferences 24/7. Therefore, the database specialist asks the IT department to create a new operational data source to collect data on listener profiles at different times of the day. The data collection process enables the creation of new operational data sources in the technically oriented environment, and the process is controlled and managed by developers and operational staff from IT operations and development. In the analytical environment, the analyst now has access to data and starts to transform the collected and merged data from the data warehouse into information and knowledge. The report is released weekly with new numbers to the business's intranet, where it can be accessed and used by business users in the production department. The radio station's operational decision makers, DJs, and newsreaders must now change their daily business processes and actions in such a way that their actions provide better support for the achievement of the strategic targets of the business. What is happening on this radio station is BA, decision support delivered to operational decision makers based on data analysis, creation of knowledge. The purpose of the exercise is to direct the decision makers' daily business processes toward achieving strategic targets. The business is on its way to achieving its overall strategic targets, and the production department's BA initiative must be said to have been successful. It could not have been done without BA from strategy to data sources. The 12 most important conclusions to draw from the case study in the establishment of successful BA are: the BA initiative of a business area or a department must support and promote the department's overall strategic targets, which equally must support and promote the overall strategic targets of the business as a whole. A planned BA activity must stand up to an evaluation based on business case principles. It must be specified what kind of information and knowledge are required for the operational decision makers and digital processes, and how they are to act on this information. The analyst/controller must be able to decode business users correctly, specify the requirement for relevant data, and use the right methods so that useful information and knowledge are presented for decision support. Chapter 4: Data and Business. The data specialist or the ETL developer in the data warehouse must be able to merge and enrich data with useful dimensions and perspectives. Data quality must be high to ensure credibility from the business side. More about data warehouse and data quality in Chapter 5. IT operations and development must be able to establish an infrastructure for new data sources and secure valid retrieval of source data. Further information on data sources will be presented in Chapter 6. BA is a holistic and hierarchical discipline, stretching from business strategies to sourcing from operational data sources. The business-driven environment must assume full ownership and manage the process. The same is true if we do not deliver the right data to the analysts, or if the business users chooses not to act based on the new knowledge. Sketching an information strategy of the radio station using the BA model is visualized in Exhibit. Executive management sets overall strategic targets for the business. Program manager sets target, average listening time, KPI 3, equals 30 minutes. Operational decision makers improve upon business processes using information created by the BA function. Operational decision makers demand and use information. DJs and newsreaders demand information about listeners' tastes/profiles at different times of the day. BA function analyst, controller, data manager, and report developer identify business requirements and create information using analytical methodology. Data warehouse function ETL developer and database specialist gather, enrich, and supply data for business use, based on requirements from analyst. Data source and IT infrastructure function IT professionals maintain and develop IT infrastructure for data to be created. Instead, our aim is to demonstrate important relationships between overall business strategies and the information that the BA function can deliver in this context. How does the overall business strategy subsequently influence the BA function? Link between strategy and the deployment of business analytics. To facilitate our discussion of various degrees of integration between strategy and BA functions, we'll offer an outline of the concept of strategy and how it is created. Its purpose is to adapt the organization's business area, resources, and activities to the market in which the organization operates. A strategy can also be described as a list of projects that must lift all the business processes to the next level. A strategy development process is a mixture of analyses, each of which is based on different data sources or methods or both. Our focus is BA, therefore, we will focus on the delivery of information based on electronic data that comes from data warehouses. In a strategic or overall management context, information is used to change and coordinate business processes in the functional areas of the organization. Chapter 5: Strategy and Business. Strategy and Business Analytics. For scenarios in the following sections, we present 4 scenarios that illustrate different degrees of integration between the BA function and the company's strategy. Companies that are separated in their strategy, without data or with limited data distributed over many source systems, are unable to make a link between corporate strategy and BA. In these companies, data is not used for decision-making at a strategic level. Instead, data is used in connection with ad hoc retrieval to answer concrete questions along the way and automate processes, but without any link to business strategy. Alternatively, the company continues with a business strategy that is not based on information. Scenario 2 is that BA supports strategy at a functional level. Scenario 3 is dialogue between the strategy and the BA functions. Scenario 4 is information as a strategic resource. Scenario 1, no formal link between strategy and business analytics. The first type of link between the deployment of BA and strategy is the absence of any link. Scenario 2, business analytics supports strategy at a functional level. The second scenario represents what we call an adapted information strategy. The BA function supports company performance reporting and processes proactively, but only reactively in how it supports the strategy creation processes. There may be a formalized dialogue between individual functions and BA, but the relation to the strategy function is formalized as a monologue, from strategy to BA function. In the quality of BA in such an organization, it's important to be good at defining targets based on strategy. In connection with the monitoring of the strategy, a number of targets to be achieved are outlined. There are a number of business reasons as to why objectives need to be SMART. In a broader business context, the 5 requirements work to ensure a clear-cut understanding of the basis of business initiatives. We prefer to automate the measuring via a data warehouse, so that users can retrieve data about the achievement of targets on a continuous basis. Scenario 3, dialogue between the strategy and the business analytics functions. The third scenario is based on the existence of an established data warehouse to integrate, store and provide automated digital processes with data, and an established BA function with analytical competencies to make use of this data. This signifies that a flow of information is going back to the strategy function based on the created reports. Quality for the BA function in this scenario is the ability to deliver relevant information to the strategy function. An optimization of the strategy takes place when we use this learning to improve our business processes and thereby ensure that the organization maintains its agility between the annual strategy processes. What the balanced scorecard achieves, therefore, is to link the primary production processes to the development of the business. In regards to automated digital processes, dialogue between BA and the strategy means that the data to support digital processes is closely aligned with the strategy. Closing. That is the heart of Busniness Analytic for Managers 2nd edition. If it helped, a quick subscribe keeps more summaries coming. So how do business and data connect? That is exactly where we started. Go back to the top and watch it click into place.